Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Terry Martin with the Illinois Channel, and I'm going to be joined by Jeff Berkowitz of Public Affairs TV. And Jeff, we are joining together to talk about what has been the 4 days of the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, one that was a very unified convention by all accounts. But as we tape this on the morning of July 19th, just the day after the Republicans close their convention, on the other side, the Democratic side, we have increasingly calls. Just this morning, 4 more House Democrats are calling for Joe Biden to quit the race, and that they join something like 17 other Democrats, which have already called for Joe Biden to quit the race. And so this morning, ladies and gentlemen, as Jeff and I discuss what is going on and try to give you all the information you need, Jeff and I don't know whether Biden is going to be the nominee, whether Kamala Harris is going to be the vice presidential nominee on the Democratic ticket. But the Democratic ticket, Jeff, the Democratic convention, I should say, starts 1 month from today, and somehow the Democrats have to work out that chaos. And it is said that Joe Biden might be leaving the race before this weekend is out. Again, we're taping this on Friday the 19th. So, Jeff, what are your thoughts overall on what you have heard over the last 4 days? And first, what do you make of what's going on with the Democrats and the chaos over there?
So starting with the last question, what do I make of the Democrats and what's going on? They're in big trouble. Look, the overview, we've had an attempted assassination of the Republican nominee for president. We've had much ado for the last almost month now of Joe Biden, who was the presumptive nominee, or the nominee for almost sure people thought for the Democrats. And then we had this major convention that we just finished, the Republican National Convention. And all of those things, it's just so much news in so short a time. And the introduction of JD Vance to the ticket, to the Republican ticket. So where are we? The short of it is the Republicans are way ahead.
And we see that in polling around the country. I have yet to see, and I don't know if you have, any polling that has yet come out. I don't believe it has, since the shooting of President Trump. And again, as we tape this, the president was nearly killed. This was Saturday of last week, just 6 days ago as we taped this an iconic image that is now frankly already being put on t-shirts by some Trump supporters. And we nearly had President Trump assassinated, as everyone knows, and the fallout from that is yet to be heard, because just this coming Monday there's going to be a House hearing in the U.S. Congress about how the Secret Service had such a breakdown in their security, and the head of the Secret Service is going to be called onto the carpet to try to give an explanation of why these security breaches occurred.
The important thing for both parties, well, certainly the important thing for the Republican Party, is to keep their eye on the ball. They are ahead. They're ahead because they know for sure who their ticket is. That's Trump-Vance, okay? The Democrats don't know who their ticket is. We'll get into that during the show. But clearly they don't. You have a lot of sympathy for the president when somebody almost gets assassinated, killed. It doesn't matter whether it's Trump or Biden or whoever it is. That person draws a lot of sympathy. And so the Republicans are on a roll. Almost everybody says nationally Trump is ahead of Biden. Almost everybody says Trump is ahead of Biden in the key battleground states, which we'll get to. It may be margin of error, it may be larger, but it's a significant, if not statistically significant, it's a significant lead. And we just come out of this convention.
I think I did hear last time, speaking of the polls, that Trump is now ahead by 5. It was 5 or 6 points nationally. Now, nationally really doesn't matter. It matters in those battleground states. That's where the race is won or lost.
Well, the convention which just ended, it was not your grandpa's convention for sure. Okay. And the way the lead, you saw Kid Rock there, you saw the Hulk there, you saw lots of stuff you don't
Hulk
usually see.
Hogan, we should say, yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't know professionally wrestling, folks, it was difficult to keep up with the last night of the convention. If you don't know Kid Rock, so this was a lot of stuff new to Republicans, everyday Americans they featured, a lot of stuff. Populism came, oh, excuse me, populism became dominant in the Republican Party. So, which started in 2016, the introduction by Trump of populism to the Republican Party 8 years later is almost complete, but still going on with JD Vance. So that was the big thing of this convention. There was a lot of criticism. If it always and this it highlights what you watch, where you get your news. Do you get it from Fox or CNN and MSNBC and PBS? I'll lump those three together because I watched all of those last night. PBS, CNN, PBS and
Are you saying
MSNBC are all
PBS or CBS?
PBS,
Public
Public
Broadcast.
Broadcasting City. Okay. PBS and MSDNC, as Trump says, MSNBC, as most say, they're off the charts. They're
I
together.
was going to say, if Rush Limbaugh might have said it's a liberal public broadcasting service.
Yeah, it is. And it's awful, but it's a viewpoint, and a lot of people get their news. And if I want to know what people are thinking, especially Democrats, I got to watch it. Then I watch CNN. That's a little bit more mainstream.
Okay. I did not have the opportunity because I had to record one. I couldn't be flipping around. But
Right.
what was how did the reaction of these, what I would say, liberal approach to broadcasting the Republican convention? Give us your impression of how the coverage varied
here's
from
what.
Fox to these other channels.
The coverage was, folks, they started off a little bit as they said. This is from Jonathan Capehart. This is from Jen Psaki. This is the Democratic Party. PBS and MSDNC are fully owned subs of the Democratic Party. So they said, well, we were told it was going to be about unity. Started off a little bit. Trump was a little different. But then shortly thereafter, he went off the teleprompter and it was the same old thing. It was a pep rally. It was a Trump rally. That was it. Okay. You go to CNN and you say, there is David Urban, who's a Trump guy. There is Jennings, Scott Jennings, who's he's somewhat of a Trump guy, Republican. And then, so I give CNN that. You're getting somewhat of a viewpoint, a Republican viewpoint, if you will, a Trump viewpoint, and it's not equal, certainly, to the Democrat, but you're seeing some balanced discussion. And Jake Tapper respects these folks. Even David Axelrod respects them. You're having somewhat of a civil conversation. It's left. It's certainly left of center. Some of those are far left, but you're seeing.
Well, that aside, I want to know specifically. Were they saying this is a great convention? Were they critical of the Republicans? I'm less interested in who was sitting in what seat. What was the discussion?
Well, it was David Urban, the Trump guy, saying this is they communicated their important issues. Trump showed he was somewhat more solemn. He was somewhat less. He only mentioned Biden twice. He said he wasn't going to mention him at all, but they acknowledged that was a big change. He didn't keep ripping Biden. He didn't keep ripping. What came through from CNN and Fox is that this convention highlighted the key aspects of the Republican platform. Inflation was good, it's now bad. Crime was made much worse by the Democrats in their tenure in the last 4 years. National security was made much worse.
And of course, they talked about immigration, illegal immigration.
Immigration. Those are the 4 topics they're running on: illegal immigration,
and putting America first, and focusing on American security rather than foreign security.
Terry, let me just say it. 4 topics. They're really key: illegal immigration, inflation, crime, national security. The Republicans have to remember over the next, it's almost 100 days left now. Soon it'll be 60 days. Hammer those 4 topics. Hammer, hammer, hammer. Yes, bring in, as you just started to, the subheadings. But if the Republicans hammer illegal immigration, inflation, crime, national security, and those wars that are endless wars as they're running now in Ukraine and the Hamas-Israel war, if they hammer that, they will
Okay,
win
let
for
me
sure.
interject here because we
And the
got things
second,
we got to
the
get
last
to.
thing is, no, the
One,
last thing is Terry. Last thing is, if they do that, not only will they get the presidency, but they'll get the House and they'll get the
I
Senate,
would
and
predict at
that's a
this
big deal.
point that the Republicans will have the sweep. They'll get the White House, they'll get the House, and they'll get the Senate. You and I have talked about the Senate before. The Democrats, unfortunately for them, have far more, a much higher number of Senate seats to defend than the Republicans do in this cycle. And this is a bad time for them to be in that position because of the weakness of Joe Biden at the top of the ticket. And he may not be, as we just already discussed. He may be quitting the race for re-election this weekend, and then we don't even know who the Democratic nominee would be. What hung over the Republican convention is this near assassination of Donald Trump. And that is something that really influenced, I think, the emotional tenor in addition to the issues you just raised that are on people's minds. And when we talk about people not having to be reminded of inflation every time they go to the gas pump, they're realizing, or the grocery store, that they're paying a lot more than they used to be paying to fill up their tank, to put food on the table, and that's working also for the Republicans and to and the Republicans, I think, in the address of both Trump and JD Vance, reflected that reality. One of the things that, unlike the Democrats and their chaos, the theme of President Trump's acceptance speech last night was unity. And I want to play just a bite here. It runs about 30 seconds of some of the unity that he called for, not of the Republican Party, but unity for the nation.
I'm here tonight to lay out a vision for the whole nation, to every citizen, whether you're a young or old man or woman, Democrat, Republican, or independent, black or white, Asian or Hispanic. I extend to you a hand of loyalty and of friendship. Together we will lead America to new heights of greatness like the world has never seen before.
Well, these are the subheadings now. Unity is an important thing. The country wants a unifier. Biden promised unity, he didn't deliver. Okay? People thought stability, that's who they were voting for. Stability. They got far left. They got Bernie Sanders when they thought they were getting the old Biden more stable, more balanced. Okay? So Trump better be able to persuade, it's not easy, the country that he can be a unifier. That's new for him, a unifier. And it needs to be in the whole country, whether you're black, whether you're brown, whether you're green, Asian, white. It's I represent you. I don't care if you voted for me. He better be saying that a lot, convincingly. He better trot out JD Vance. He's his guy to look. He's the guy who grew up in sort of Appalachia, Ohio, and ancestry into Kentucky. He can identify, they think, as he campaigns in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, in Wisconsin. They think. We'll find out.
We have.
And let me just say, Terry, one more thing. The key battleground states, we'll talk about 10, but the big four that are viewed as toss-ups, 19 electoral votes. Wisconsin, 10 electoral votes. Arizona, 11 electoral votes. And then Nevada, 6 electoral votes. Those 4 states, toss-ups, 46 electoral votes. You win one of them. If they win,
Well, there's also New
Pennsylvania,
Hampshire,
do it.
and there's
Well,
Georgia, and the Democrats have to also try to carry North Carolina. Georgia, Biden won barely. Nevada, Biden won barely. Arizona, Biden won barely. All of those in 2020, all of those now are leaning towards Trump, even New Hampshire. So the
right.
task, as we talk about, the task for the for the Democrats to win, and I'm reluctant to even say Biden because I suspect he won't be the nominee. And by the way, I'll remind the audience that over a year ago, I just said that he can't be the Democratic nominee because I thought he is just so obviously feeble and unpopular that I couldn't believe the Democrats would run with him at the top of the ticket. Frankly, I'm surprised it's gone this far, that at this late stage. But the Democrats have really kind of painted themselves into a corner. But let's talk, as we talk about some of the policy differences between the Republicans and the Democrats. One of the things that Joe Biden has said is that if he is the next year, if he's the president, that the Trump tax cuts of 2017, they run out next year. They're going to have to be renewed, and if they're not renewed, then everyone's taxes are going to go up. And Biden said he would not be renewing the Trump tax cuts. Here's one thing that President Trump said last night in his address.
This is the only administration that said, we're going to raise your taxes by 4 times what you're paying now, and people are supposed to vote for them? I've never heard it. You're paying too much. We're going to reduce your taxes still further. We gave you the biggest one, as I said. We're going to give you more, and it's going to lead to tremendous growth. We want growth in our country. That's what's going to pay off our debt.
So Trump is saying he's going to not only renew taxes that were passed in 2017, he's going to renew them. The Republicans, if they have the House and Senate, will make those permanent. They won't have a due date on those tax cuts, and they're going to look to cut some other taxes, and they're going to look to cut regulations, and they're going to go drill, baby, drill to have oil pumped, and that will bring down the cost of virtually everything. And the oil prices going up under Biden is one of the things, not the only, but one of the contributors to the inflation that we have all seen, and as I've already talked about, as people see at the pump and at the grocery store, because every single thing is impacted by the price of oil. So that's one of the key differences, Jeff, that we're seeing between the Republicans and what they say they're going to be doing and what the Democrats thus far have been saying that they're going to be doing.
Well, yes, it takes you back to that major heading of inflation. That's the kitchen table issue. You don't want to just say inflation, you want to say the price of so many things have gone up 20%, 30%, meat and potatoes, okay, and bacon and chicken and so forth and on, and gas, okay? And now then the Republicans say, and in addition to causing all of that inflation, that was their spending, more than was needed coming out of COVID. In addition to that, they're talking about raising taxes. They say they won't raise your taxes, only the other guys. Don't you believe it? That's it. And we'll cut your taxes because that's how you stimulate growth. But you always start with that inflation thing, those high prices, because people know at one point in the Biden administration, undeniable. Tell CNN to fact check that. 9% CPI. Maybe it's come down, but it was 9%. We hadn't heard that in 40 years. Okay.
And CPI is a consumer price index. It's the measurement of inflation.
And when people say, as Biden does, well, it's coming down, yes, but over the 4 years, that's a cumulative 20% increase. That ain't coming down. What's coming down is the rate of growth. You're not going to the store and finding
inflation
out
is still higher.
It's
just not going up at 9% anymore. Now it's maybe going up at 3% or 4%. And many economists are saying that even those numbers underestimate the actual cost of inflation going on. But you know, Jeff, a week ago, when we did our last show, the big question was, who will Trump pick to be the vice president? Now we know. You and I had talked about that JD Vance was in the top tier of candidates, most likely. Indeed, it is Vance. But I haven't had a chance to ask you, what did you think of the selection of JD Vance to be the vice presidential nominee?
Well, I'm concerned. I'm always concerned. It's nice to put a guy who's 39 and in a few weeks will be 40. It's a very youthful look. Look at his wife who came on. Tremendously impressive. Asha, okay? Happens to be Indian, happens to be practicing Hindu. You wouldn't know to look at her that she is any of those things, but that's her background. And people can identify with that and they will learn about it. And she was very elegant when she introduced her husband. And she's a smart woman. She's a lawyer. Munger told us a very fairly progressive law firm, and she was a member partner, I think, of that until a few days ago when she withdrew as she became the first vice for the, what do you call it, the second lady, okay, or something like that. But anyway, that's an impressive couple. But JD Vance at 40, look, 7 years ago he was a never Trumper. I'm always a little. It's not saying you can't change your mind, you can't convert. People want converts, but I don't know. I don't know that I understand fully the conservative, that they are conservative views of JD Vance. I don't know how you blend populism with conservatism. Okay, I don't know how you discard the free market views that the Republican Party, along with others, developed over the last 200 years. I don't know how you discard Adam Smith. That's like discarding with the Wealth of Nations, which was written in 1776. Are you going to discard the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution? So I have a lot of doubts about T.D. Vance, but they can be cured as we learn more about him. But it ain't going to be easy. Well, so the short answer to your question, what do I think of T.D. Vance? He's a tremendous talent. We'll find out how much over the next 100 days.
Well, and he went to Yale Law School. He became famous because he wrote a best-selling book on his life from massive poverty down in the Appalachia region. His mother, who was at the convention, was hooked, I think it was on heroin, but she's now been sober for the last 10 years. So not only, you might say, is the Republican vice presidential nominee married to a woman of color, if we call a woman from Asian Indian extraction a woman of color, but he himself has come from the depths of poverty, as I say, Appalachian, his own family impacted by drugs, and yet here he has risen to the heights of the political system in a very short time. He was only elected to the U.S. Senate 2 years ago, and that's one of the doubts, I would say, is we don't know much about his own political beliefs. He has said, I was suspect of Trump, I spoke against him, but Trump surprised me, and now he is happy to say, I was wrong. Trump did a great job as president, and that is what his position was. Let me play a portion of the bite, though, of Vance, because one of the reasons I think he was...
Let me just suggest here.
Well, can you give it to it after the bite here, Jeff? I mean,
No, because we only have 6 minutes left, and we haven't touched on a very important thing to give some balance. Let's do that first, then we'll go back to JD if we have time. What are the Democrats going to do? We haven't discussed at all about their problem of deciding whether Biden's going or not.
Well, we're not going to talk about that now. Here's the bite of JD Vance at the convention, and this is critical because it is a shift in who the Republicans are. His nomination, his speaking, is a reflection of the Trump takeover of the Republican Party and the direction of the Republican Party going future. We'll get back to what you're saying. The Democrats need to be rebuilt. They need their own version of Trump to reform the Democratic Party. But first, let's hear what JD Vance had to say last night on putting the values of America first and the values of the American worker first.
We've heard about villains and their victims. I've talked a lot about that, but let me tell you about the future. President Trump's vision is so simple and yet so powerful. We're done, ladies and gentlemen, catering to Wall Street. We'll commit to the working man. We're done importing foreign labor. We're going to fight for American citizens and their good jobs and their good wages. We're done buying energy from countries that hate us. We're going to get it right here from American workers in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, and across the country.
And JD Vance, and really a much different theme of what's going on. So when they say put America first, it's not just a theme song. This is going to be part of the heart and soul. And Jeff, as we look, we should also mention at the convention for the first time ever, you had the head of the Teamsters Union address the Republican convention. He didn't endorse Trump, but he said significantly that we, the Teamsters Union, are not beholden to any one party, and we're willing to work with the Republicans as much as the Democrats.
Well, all that's fine. As I said earlier, Trump brought the Republican Party in 2016 to populism, and JD Vance perhaps would bring it further along. It's about the forgotten man. That's what he's talking about, forgotten woman, the forgotten worker. Okay, which is the American citizen, the American worker would now be highlighted over Wall Street, Main Street over Wall Street. We've heard all of this. Can he sell it? Can he sell it in Wisconsin? Can he sell it in Pennsylvania? Can he sell it in Michigan?
What do you think? What's the answer? What do you think is the answer?
Yes, but it's going to take some finesse, okay? Because you don't want to start just talking about, oh, we don't need trade. We're just going to tariff our way out of this. It's going to take some finesse. We can do another whole show on that, but that's a major challenge of TD Vance and Donald Trump.
From what I've seen of Vance in interviews, and he's taken some hard interviews with NBC News, he kept his cool. He gave good answers. He's obviously well-spoken. He's written, as we said, a best-selling book. In fact, it was made into a movie. So he has certainly a compelling story to share, and that story fits in, as I've already said, to the theme of we might say, the new Republican Party. Meanwhile, the Democrats are still debating about what pronouns to use and what a woman is. And I think this is really just an impact and hanging over that party. Go ahead.
Let's just go to the Democrats for our last 2 minutes. So now that it's almost clear, looking at what Pelosi has said, Schumer has said, Hakeem Jeffries has said, Biden, it's hard to predict, but I think Biden is out. And the question is, who is going to replace Biden? And how do you handle the problem of Kamala Harris, who happens to be viewed as a woman of color? And often people say, since she's Jamaican, she's black. Is that a black issue? So can you bring in somebody like Gavin Newsom, who ain't black, or J.B. Pritzker, or Andy Bashar from Kentucky, or even Gretchen Whitmer, who happens to be a woman but ain't black? Can you do that? Or do you have to go to somebody like Wes Moore, who seems very impressive, but has been only governor of Maryland for 2 years? This is the problem the Democrats are dealing with. And how do you set up a system to deal with this in the next few weeks? Because is it going to be the 3,900 delegates who were elected, in a sense, or at least chosen to represent and make these choices in the Democratic Party, along with the 600 or 700 super delegates, those 4,600
The Democratic, I think, caucus, the Democratic unity of these groups that they have had, blacks, Hispanics, the Jewish vote, is coming apart. Because of the war in the Middle East, more Jewish Democrats are now considering voting Republican. More blacks we've seen with Trump. Blacks are going to Trump, Hispanics are going to Trump. And the Democrats, it is going to be fascinating. The convention is going to be in Chicago, and we'll have to see what happens. But it will certainly be, if you like politics, this is a presidential campaign unlike we have seen in our lifetime.
Let me mention, the dark horse, okay? Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania, only in his second year as governor, happens to favor choice, but he kind of backed out of that. He happens to be Jewish. Would the Democrats go there? Could they do that? Remember, Pennsylvania is key.
As Pritzker is Jewish, and Pritzker would be embraced by the progressives.
Yeah, Pritzker Shapiro maybe. Bring in Whitmer, who's got Michigan's 15 electoral votes. Democrats have to be very conscious of their blue wall. Michigan 15, Wisconsin 10.
Okay, before let's big picture. 19. What's your prediction right now? Who wins the race?
Who wins the race?
Yep.
The presidential race?
Yes.
Oh, right now it's got to be Trump Vance. Easy.
I agree.
Prediction.
And I would also say the Republicans take the House and they also take the Senate and the White House. And Jeff, we're out of time. As always, folks, thanks for watching, and do leave us your comments of what you would like to see happen. Until next time, Jeff, I'll say farewell for now.